What up guys, Conceptor here, and as mentioned in my previous video, the multiplayer skills have been selected. So today we're going to talk about the Psycho skills a little bit more in depth. I'm just going to give my my opinions on each skill. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and start with Psycho Knife. Now Psycho Knife is one of your basic abilities. It's a short range ability, has a small knife animation. It's kind of like a chop, like a side chop. And it costs 2 and it deals 2 damage. Pretty simple. The cool thing about this is your first attack is not going to be able to knock down your opponent. Usually people are knocked down if they take 3 or more damage, or unless specified by the skill, of course. But you would hit them with Psycho Knife, and they will kind of like get stunned for a second, and then you can follow with a different ability. Usually you can just spam Psycho Knife again, and then after the second attack, you would then knock them down. But overall, Psycho Knife is a really good early game aggressive ability, especially if you can get 2 to 3 mana in your hand, or in your hand early. Grab it, run to your opponent's base, and apply a lot of pressure. So Psycho Knife can be not so great, at the same time it can just be outright just deadly crazy, and sometimes you'll lose friends over it. Alright, next we're gonna go to Rock Shot. Rock Shot is one of my favorite skills because it's value. It is a parabola attack. You kind of throw it in the air and it comes back down, and it has extremely good homing. Now this costs 3 and it does 4 damage. With parabolas, again, you can they're better used when you're not necessarily like on the same plane. So if someone's above you and you're below, you can throw it up there, or if you're behind cover, you can throw it over cover. It's kind of like I guess you could say it's fairly aggressive. So you can put Psycho Knife and Rock Shot in the same deck to be aggressive, and you can also again use it as a defensive skill. You hide behind cover and shoot your opponent that way. Now going into Bomb. Bomb is just like Rock Shot, but it does 1 less damage, costs the same amount, but it has an extra added ability to it, that it explodes. And sometimes an explosion can be really good, especially if you're on a map like Refinery, because that explosion can knock people off and get an extra 3 damage in there when the person falls off, or if someone dodges it. If they dodge it incorrectly, it may hit the wall behind them, and that explosion can still get them, still dealing that 3 damage. I'm still surprised that both of them are on this list because they are fairly similar, but I guess they wanted you to experience kind of the explosion factor. But anywho, next on the list we have Dazzle. Dazzle is a 4-cost ability. When you hit someone with Dazzle, it would kind of scramble their controls. So the buttons you see on your screen where you lay out your skills, like you lay out your skills on the A button, B button. So if you press the A button, they can accidentally hit your skill that you had assigned to the B button, so on and so forth. Now the thing that makes this cool is Dazzle, it says medium range, it can hit long range. It goes at a fairly decent speed. Now the thing that makes Dazzle really good is the fact that when you get hit by it, you kind of get stunned for a second. So that's when you can follow up with another ability. So you can Dazzle and then hit them with a Rock Shot immediately after if you have enough mana for that. Next we have Crystal Wall. Crystal Wall is a low cost defense, a great early anti-Psycho Knife. You can say it costs 1, has a defense of 3, and it stops these pierce abilities. Now in the multiplayer kit, you have plenty of pierce abilities. They trample over technically. So if you have a defense of 3 and have an attack of 8, and that 5 will roll over to your health. But this will prevent that. Even if your defense skill is destroyed, the pierce skill won't hurt you at all. So it pretty much stops. It's kind of like extra insurance, but it's really good, and it's cost 1. It's a barrier, and barriers cover your front only, but it stops early aggression like Psycho Knife. Alright, next we have Psycho Sniper. Psycho Sniper was an amazing ability. They changed it a little bit, but it's still good. It's the long range option for Psycho. Costs 5, deals 4 damage, pretty straightforward. Your long range option there if you need it, especially if you're on a large map like Highway and you need to kill those pesky optical guys that are gonna be running around, and optical is one of the options they have, so you might at least put one of these in your deck since it is infinite use here. Kind of skipped over a skill. We have About Face. About Face is another defensive skill. This ability costs 2, has a defensive dash. Now what that means is it doesn't really apply a defensive stat, and in the description you're going to see the word course. It pretty much takes the projectile and kind of reflects it back. Now there are some defensive skills that say reflect, but those work in a different way. Reflect kind of just reflects projectiles shot in front of you. Course can stop projectiles that come at you from overhead, like a parabola. So if someone shoots a Rock Shot at you, you can't reflect the Rock Shot, but you can course it back. But About Face can be really good versus our next skill on the list. It's Psycho Spear. Psycho Spear is a 3 cost and deals 8 damage. it's ridiculous. You have 20 health starting in the game, and this thing deals 8 damage. So if you look at the description, it says add pierce effect. That just pretty much means that this ability has the pierce effect, and that's the trample effect rollover. So if your opponent tries to block with a defensive skill of 3 and this does 8 damage, you're going to deal 5 damage to them and breaking the shield. Honestly, this should be a 2 to 3 of in everyone's deck that has Psycho in it. Next we have Psycho Wave and Psycho Burst. I'm going to do both of these at the same time because they're pretty much the same. Just like Bomb and Rock Shot, they're very similar. I'm not really sure why they're on the same list, but here we go. So what this does is it deals damage to your opponent according to their level. On your opponent's UI symbol, it's going to be the second number. They are like your end game abilities. I love these abilities. Alright, for the last ability on our list, we got Psycho Shell. Psycho Shell is one of your more mid to late game defensive skill. It's the biggest skill within our list here. It has a cost of 3 and has a defensive of 6 and has a special attribute called Shelter. What that means is it pretty much blocks the entire area above your body. Unlike barriers only block the front. Shelters pretty much block everything above you and behind you. But yeah, guys, that's gonna conclude it for Psycho. I think this is an overall decent list. I really don't like the Rock Shot and Bomb being on the same list and both Waves and Burst being on the same list, but hey. And I definitely will probably be running Psycho because I want those spears. I need those spears. They're satisfying 8 damage to anybody. So I open up on my opponent with a Psycho Spear. They block. I get rid of their defense. I go in with my Psycho Knife. They try to run away. I hit them with a Rock Shot. Anyway, guys, this is Contento. Thanks for listening. Come back to make sure you check out my other videos. I'm going to be doing the optical and nature skills. And then after that, we're going to go in some decks. Thanks for plugging in. Peace out.
DDR base, DDR base, DDR base. I am here, and my name is Chaos. Rap is to me like music is the Amadeus. Wolfgang, the famous composer. When I stepped in, I told him to move over. I am the new kid on the block, and a mission to make your body.